Hello and welcome to day 3 of OctHorrorFest, and today I am reviewing a film I have never seen before, and this is Ringu, which is the original Japanese version of The Ring. And I'm very grateful I have many hats to hide my terrible hair today. As you know from yesterday, I'm filming a lot of these during September, so yes, this is not the same day. Of course it's not. So The Ring has always been up there with one of the films that I've been most terrified to watch for years. There was always this taboo kind of surrounding it when I was growing up, that it was, you know, one of the scariest films ever. So naturally I just stayed clear of it. And I only watched the US remake, The Ring, a couple of months ago actually, and I was so underwhelmed. It was just so boring and not scary and just generally boring. So for this series I decided to watch the original Japanese movie Ringu, and you know what, I wasn't scared, but I wasn't bored, and that is a major plus. So I think what really works for this film is that it takes time to create an atmosphere, and the atmosphere that it creates is just creepy. The underlying tension is definitely very clear and present, but I don't know if this was me just being a little bit nervous and scared to watch the film, because I had heard so many people tell me that the Japanese version was so much scarier. And you know what, it was kind of scary in parts, but I wasn't terrified. But I think what the US remake just kind of fails at completely is that kind of tension that it creates. The first people that you see affected by the video and who are dead, in the US remake they have got the most ridiculous, fake, kind of prosthetic-y, scary, awful, just bad faces that is meant to terrify you. It's meant to be scarier, but you know, less is more. And this is what the Japanese one does so well. These people you see that have died because of the video, they literally just have a face of kind of terror on their face. It's just so much more effective. It feels more real, and then the realness of it is what makes it scary, because it, you know, it could happen in real life, you know? Because for me, as soon as anything enters into that realm of like fantastical, the kind of scary element is diminished a little bit. And I guess the US one, it, like I said, it just relies a lot on the shock factor. Like I said, with the prosthetics, there is that bit with the horse. And I guess the backstory that they go into in the US one, I just really didn't like. It just didn't quite work for me. It was a bit too sentimental, and yeah. But again, with the Japanese one, the backstory was, again, it was quite scary. It was really interesting, and I got a lot more out of it than I thought I would, really. So orchestral stings, essentially just jump scares but sounds, that is used a lot in horror. I usually hate them, but actually in this film they work really well, because there wasn't much kind of obvious music, but when there was, it kind of built and built and built into this, like, you know, jump scare-ish. But it wasn't really jump scaring anything. It was just generally scary. It made me jump, but not in a way that afterwards I was annoyed by it, because so many times with jump scares I just get irritated because I was like, oh, that wasn't actually scary. But this kind of, again, it creates that tension, and I was tense. The main protagonist, Asakawa, I really liked her. She was just really cool. Again, in the US remake, I found the main character really annoying. She was just quite nonchalant about the whole thing, but in this one, you know, she was actually quite terrified that she was gonna die, you know, which you would be. And I just thought she kind of played that really well. There was a lot of moments where she was genuinely really just terrified, and yeah, it was great. And I actually really liked how they kind of played on the supernatural element of Sadako before she dies, because as far as I can remember, Samara in The Ring is like a kind of turns into a ghost, and that's when she gets all weird. I can't remember. But in this one, like I said, the flashbacks are really interesting, and really, again, they actually make her quite scary when she's alive, which is really cool. I will say the whole scene in the well was actually gross. They use special effects well in this bit with the fingernails on the side of the whale, which just, oh, they look disgusting. And it was just the bit where they kind of find her body with the hair, and it was just, oh, it's so gross. That was the bit that kind of affected me most, actually, because it was just so gross, and I'm not usually affected that much by that kind of stuff, but it was just really nasty. So the part where you actually see Sadako coming out of the TV, again, I've kind of seen this a lot in Scary Movie 3, now I've seen The Ring, so it didn't kind of have the same effect that I think it might have had on others for me, but I still think it was very effective. Again, how she isn't all, like the makeup on her, she literally has nothing, she just looks like a girl, whereas in the US one she's all like kind of blue and she's gross and looks more supernatural, whereas this one, she's just a girl with a hair covering her face, which I thought was way more effective. And it was just really freaky. Like, I actually found it really difficult to watch because, again, I've kind of seen things from this, like the image of her eye through the hair. So through the entire scene, her hair was covered and I was like, oh god, oh god, oh god, when are they going to do it? When are they going to do it? And I didn't know if it was going to be like, again, like a kind of jump scare. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I was just so tense throughout that whole thing. And yeah, I just found it really unnerving. Again, it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be, but I really enjoyed it. So overall, I really did enjoy Ringu. It had definite kind of scarier elements than the US film. It was just a better made film all around, really. The acting was better, just everything was better. The one thing I will say is that I really, really, really wish that I'd watched this one before I'd watched the US remake. So if you haven't seen either of them, watch Ringu first, and I promise you it's not really that scary. I mean, it might be if you don't usually watch horror films, but yeah. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to keep up to date with everything that I'm doing, the horror series, but I've also got the Bond series going on as well. And if you'd like to follow me on my social media pages, I'll leave the links to my Instagram and Twitter down below. And also, if you'd like to support me on Patreon, I will leave the link down there too. So yeah, happy 3rd of October everyone, and I shall see you tomorrow.